A lot of people say, your hat's weird. J.D. Vance is weird. These conversations are weird. Okay, look, all right? I don't want to hear about my hat being weird, all right? Because men, okay, transgender men, okay, women, rather, born men, transgender women, are housed with female prisoners. So the next time someone would like to call me weird, I'm going to reference this. Okay, this hat being weird. I'm going to reference this. Okay, I'm going to reference that. And then I'm going to reference our lawmakers talking about it. And I'm going to reference how the Democrat Party nominee who supports jailing trans inmates in women prisons. Women prison. You understand the... Pay attention. Women prison. Okay. So next time you want to call me weird, okay, you remember this. All right. Let's listen to the lawmakers. Because the lawmakers are real fun. Sometimes I need a hard hat when I listen to the lawmakers.
Senator Lee, Senator Cruz has asked for recognition. Is it?
Give them
do you mind if I go
recognition.
first with him?
Yes, fine. Remember
Senator
what
Cruz?
we're talking about now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have deep concerns about Judge Sarah Netburn's nomination, and specifically about her radical rulings that endanger women by placing biological men in women's prisons. And given the avalanche of letters this committee has received from women's groups and female inmates, I'm not the only person with concerns. In the case of JJS versus W.S. Plyler, the prisoner,
laws now,
dubbed July Justine Shelby, his real name is William McLean, was a serial rapist. There's no other way to say it. He was also a 6'2", fully intact biological man. His past criminal offenses included child molestation of a 9-year-old boy, rape of a 17-year-old girl, and criminal deviant conduct. No factual details are in the record, but the state defined the offense as, quote, compelling with force or the threat of force sexual conduct. As a result of these offenses, Shelby was incarcerated for 18 years. 1 year after being released on parole, Shelby broke parole by circulating violent child pornography. And so back in prison. And at 51 years of age, Shelby decided that he was a woman. And as a self-declared woman, he demanded to be jailed with biological woman. And failing to lock him up with other women, he argued, was a violation of the Eighth Amendment. Now, luckily for Shelby, his lawsuit ended up in front of Judge Netburn. Putting political ideology over justice and reality, Magistrate Judge Netburn recommended that Shelby, quote, be transferred immediately to a woman's facility. Despite a lifelong pattern of rape, sexual assault, and obvious sexually predatory instincts, Magistrate Judge Netburn's opinion declared that, quote, there are no signs that petitioner is at risk of reoffending. That defies words. Magistrate Judge Netburn doubled down on her commitment to a radical political ideology in her opinion. Casting aside any concerns for the female prisoners, Judge Netburn wrote, the BOP also posits that permitting petitioner to live among women will be traumatizing and possibly dangerous to them. This concern is overblown. Those are her words. Netburn's opinion went on, quote, the BOP's repeated refusal to transfer petitioner to a woman's facility to further her gender transition, despite knowing the condition of petitioner's physical and mental health, violates the petitioner's Eighth Amendment rights. This judge's ruling, the Constitution requires that biological men who wake up one day and say, I'm a woman, have to be housed with female prisoners. This judge also ruled, in effect, that female prisoners have no rights. The Democrats on this committee like to say they support the rights of women, but we're about to find out whether they do or not. Because in this case, you're taking a 6'2" man who is a serial rapist, and this judge sent that man to Fort Worth, Texas. I asked that judge, do the women in that prison have any right? If it was your mother, if it was your daughter, if it was your wife, how would you feel if your daughter was housed with a 6'2" man who's a serial rapist? Because political ideology matters more than sanity. And by the way, the threat that this ideologue said is overblown is happening all over the country. For example, in Judge Netburn's home state of New York in 2024, a former prisoner at Rikers Island claimed that she was groped and raped by a male inmate posing as a transgender woman. There had also been a prior rape attempt at Rikers in 2021 by another transgender inmate against a biological female inmate. In New Jersey, in 2022, a transgender inmate impregnated not one but two female inmates. In California, a women's group sued the Department of Corrections after transgender prisoner raped two women, impregnating one of them. And in the chairman's home state of Illinois, a female inmate sued the Department of Corrections after she was raped by a transgender inmate. This is happening over and over and over again, and it's because of ideology being put ahead of common sense. At her hearing, I asked Judge Netburn, do you regret your decision transferring a serial rapist, a biological man, to a woman's prison?
What did he say?
Her answer was, quote, no. I faithfully applied the law to the facts. That is not the law, and these are not the facts. As I mentioned at the outset, this committee has received letters from female prisoners horrified at the prospect of being housed with a biological male, fearing quite reasonably for their safety. Interestingly, the chairman has not read to you the letters those female inmates have sent to this committee, pleading on this committee to use some common sense. I'm going to read a couple for you. Alyssa K., a current inmate, here's what she wrote to us, quote, people are already getting raped and nobody cares. Honestly, someone in here is going to end up getting killed. Having men here in prison with us disrupts any sense of rehabilitation. We fear for our safety. We have further loss of privacy as we are forced to share intimate spaces with a man. We watch some prisons are victims of abuse and others willingly engage in sexual acts in our shared space. This isn't right. This isn't fair.
You don't.
Do any of our Democratic members care about Alyssa K's concerns?
Let him speak. Let him speak.
How about Amy I., a former inmate? Here's what she wrote to us to say, quote, I urge the committee to watch my story and the story of other female prisoners and a brave, resigned lieutenant who spoke out against this anti-woman policy. Women, including incarcerated women, just because a woman is in a prison doesn't mean she loses her rights. That's me talking, not the letter. I'll get back to the letter. Women, including incarcerated women, shouldn't be erased as a matter of law to accommodate the interest of men. One person's rights cannot come at the cost of another's. Here's another letter. Evelyn V., a former inmate, she wrote to us and said, quote, as a former inmate in the California state prison system, I share your concern about how women's rights are being pushed aside.
Come miles from California, FYI. If anybody cares. If anybody cares.
Compared to the interest of men who are self-identifying as women and gaining entry to facilities meant for women. Now, at the hearing, Judge Netburn told us again she thinks concerns of the risk of Shelby engaging in sexual reoffense are, quote, overblown. I strongly disagree, and as it happens, we now have facts. Just yesterday, exquisite timing, by the way, on this markup, yesterday, the Washington Free Beacon reported that Shelby, who is housed at FMC Carswell in Fort Worth, Texas, was placed in administrative segregation for exposing himself to female prisoners, apparently joking that he was fully intact. Congratulations, Judge Netburn. That's what you're doing to the women in this prison. You're subjecting them to victimization and assault. If a guy on the subway did this, whipping out his genitalia to you on the subway, you'd deck the guy and arrest him for indecent exposure. But this radical says he's got a constitutional right to be there and do this.
It's crazy.
I have to say, this is an issue. Everyone on this committee knows this isn't right. Every one of us. Every one of us would be horrified if a loved one found out she was the cellmate of a 6'2" man who was a serial rapist. But in today's topsy-turvy political world, the way you get nominated to be a judge is you demonstrate you're a radical. I know people must be saying, well, gosh, New York has 20 million people. They couldn't find one person qualified to be a judge to give a lifetime appointment to, and that's the point. What they're looking for
That's a good point.
is show us you're a radical. Well,
What?
this is an opportunity for every senator to demonstrate whether you'll stand up for the rights of women or not.
They won't.
I sadly expect a party line vote on this, but I will say this. If we have a party line vote, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a request.
Oh,
I'm going to request, Mr. Chairman, that you ask Majority Leader Schumer to expedite a floor vote on this judge on the floor. I want to see Senator Tester vote on whether a 6'2" man should go to a women's prison. I want to see Senator Brown. I want to see every Democrat go on record.
They won't.
Do you give a damn about the women in your state or not?
They won't. We won't make
It's a simple choice, and it's a choice that will be defined by the word yes or the word no.
We won't.
Senator Lee?